Mercury's MoneyLine Dawgs. I am your host, Mara Carey, and I'm here with my dogs, JC Cornell and Jake Arians. Before we get started with our Week 2 predictions, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and check out www.the813.tv for exclusive daily Bucs content. A little rundown on what on earth MoneyLine Dawgs is I'm here with my two dogs, like I said, who really hit the nail on the head with their betting predictions last week. It's too bad you missed it. But this week, we're going to get into our top dog games of the week. That is our top 5 matchups that we're liking. We're going to go in detail in and really discuss some bets. And then we have our dog shit games of the week. And we're just going to do a real quick rundown and discuss who we're liking for each of those matchups. At the end, you'll get your lock of the week, you'll get your dog of the week, and you're going to get JC's same game Bucs parlay. You won't want to miss it. Let's get started with our top dog games of the week. So to start us off, we have the Saints versus the Cowboys. This is a Sunday 1 o'clock matchup. The Dallas Cowboys are favored by 6.5 points. JC, start us off. How you feeling?
So I think New Orleans is getting a little too much credit for their win over the Panthers. I called Dallas winning last week. I think Dallas wins again. Prescott gets the contract. Feeling good. Vibes are high. I worry about the running back position. But I do think Dallas beats New Orleans at home. 16 straight home regular season wins for the Cowboys.
Not bad.
I like it, man. You know what I really liked last week with the Cowboys? And I picked Cleveland. I thought Deshaun Watson would play better. I thought their offensive line was good enough. And I thought their defense, I still think Cleveland's defense could be top 3, but Deshaun Watson was shit. Mike Zimmer taking over for Dan Quinn is definitely not a downgrade. It might be an upgrade. Zimmer's one of the best defense coordinators the last 25 years in the NFL. Doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion. That defense looked phenomenal, even without Bland being out for those 6 to 8 weeks. Diggs being back was phenomenal. I love Mike McCarthy's offensive game plan. Yeah, Dak got the contract before the game. Man, both running backs look good. I told you guys, who else is getting the ball other than CD if they're going to win? They spread it around. Those guys I never heard of making plays. Ferguson's questionable for the game. That one bothers me a little bit because that was the first name that we threw out after CD when we talked about that. I agree. I think the Cowboys cover this at home. They look like contenders, man. I think the big drama in Big D has kind of settled down. You got CD signed, you got Dak signed. They're chilling. I think you'll see an extension from McCarthy because Dak likes him. And if you're going to tie Dak up for the next 5 years, I think Mike's getting an extension maybe after the season where they want to see how this goes with Jerry. But yeah, man, I think Cowboys, maybe one of my surprises from week 1 of how good they looked. And I thought a lot of it was coaching and game plans, man. I was really impressed. I loved what Mike Zimmer did with that defense, moving Michael Parsons around, bringing a blitz from different places. It wasn't very vanilla, and they've got players. They've got pieces. I was really – and I agree with JC. I mean, we'll talk about the Saints for a second. Tyrann Mathieu's banged up. Lattimore's banged up. Their secondary's banged up. Derek Carr played well. I think they're going to be better offensively than they've been. They're going to get a new influx of some stuff. Pete Carmichael's offense was getting a little old and stale in that place. But I think the head coach is getting stale in that place. I don't know that the defense is as good as it's been. And I think the Panthers are that bad. They beat them that bad. So I'm still going to go with the Cowboys. I think they're a far inferior team talent-wise, and I think coaching-wise is the biggest difference here.
Sorry about that, guys. I got a little distracted. My wife just walked in the room because I just texted her to tell them to stop hammering. So hopefully that happens. But, yeah, let's keep going.
Keep it rolling. No, I do think it's a matter of, is New Orleans really that good, or are the Panthers just really that bad? Either way, loving Dallas here this week. How are we feeling about over under 47 points? Just real quick. JC, what do you like in there?
I could see this being an over 47.
I've got it right on the number. I got it 27-20, and they cover by half a point. So it's not something I'd probably want to touch.
You might just want to avoid that one.
Yeah, I mean, over-unders in week 1 and 2 until you really get a feel for these games. Again, Ben and I were talking about, normally you get 4 weeks of tape on a team and you feel like you start to know. I think it's going to be 6 weeks now without this preseason. I like the Niners last week so much because I saw Brock Purdy play in the preseason. I saw them play their guys. They were one of the few teams that played their starters a bunch and got a little bit of that chemistry, and they came in and really rolled. I don't know that what we know from a lot of these teams. I damn sure don't want to touch that one.
It's just
I agree with your point there, though. I mean, the new preseason stuff is crazy with these offenses not knowing what's going to happen. I mean, just talk about the Bucs game last week. I called for the Bucs to win by 20 plus. I don't think people understood how good this Liam Cohen offense was going to be, and that's the same thing for a lot of teams. But we'll talk about that later.
Oh, we will most certainly get into the Bucs later, but like you guys said, it's wild how quickly things change in Dallas. I mean, they're just at rock bottom one day, and then Jerry Jones just throws $60 million at Dak Prescott. It's insane. But we're going to get into those Cleveland Browns like we were talking about a little bit earlier. Browns versus Jaguars in Jacksonville. Jags are 3-point favorites. Over under is 41.5 points. Jake, start us off.
Yeah, I mean, you're telling me two playoff teams that everybody thought were going to be playoff teams going into the season, two potential playoff teams. One of them is going to start 0-2. Jacksonville's only getting the 3 points for being at home, so you're saying it's an equal team. It's not an equal team because one has a better quarterback than the other one, and Trevor Lawrence is better than Deshaun Watson at this point. Deshaun Watson does not fit this offense at all, and they haven't done anything with him being there for multiple years to change the offense around what he does well that he did with Bill O'Brien. As much as I love this Cleveland defense, both tackles, Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin, are now banged up. I love that offensive line, but they played like crap last week. Deshaun Watson, I don't even know how to judge what he did last week because he had no time at all. There was never a clean pocket. Dallas's defense was far superior game plan-wise, we've already discussed, of what to get. They're missing Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford can run it. We saw that last year, but it's not the same run game to give him some time. And Njoku's going to miss the game. I mean, I think Cleveland lost that game last week. They lost their confidence. They got banged up. Yes, Jacksonville lost the game last week, but they know they're a fumble away in the second half of going up 24-7. I called it fluky earlier, but the Dolphins hit more of them than anybody else. But you can't rely on an 80-yard Tyreek Hill touchdown to get you back in the game at 17-7 in the second half. Or that dog hits last week. I still think Jacksonville, one of my off-the-radar teams this year, bounces back. And I think Cleveland starts an 0-2 hole. And I'm not sure if they're going to get out of it.
JC?
Yeah, I'm taking Jacksonville -3. Like Trevor Lawrence, just the better quarterback on the field. Also, though, the Browns, I don't know if they're going to be able to contain ETN. I think Deshaun Watson is it's not going to be a good story at the end of the day. It already isn't a good story. It's going to stay pretty negative with him in Cleveland. I think he's going to fold under pressure, not only in this game, but the entire season.
Yeah, it's downright hideous right now in Cleveland. Not the start I expected. I maybe didn't expect Deshaun Watson to be anything fabulous, but I definitely did not expect him to be this bad. So,
I mean, I said if he's 80% of what he was in Houston, they win that game last week and they're good. But he was like 40% of that. And a lot of it, like I said, it wasn't all on him. Like, he played like shit. He missed open guys, but he had no time. I mean, that offensive line was healthy last week, and they're legit. I mean, Conklin and Jedrick Wills are two big-time tackles. Their guards are phenomenal. The pass protection was bad. Zim had a great plan. They brought a bunch of blitzes they weren't expecting. How much does he bounce back in week 2, or is it going to stay this ugly? I'm not real sure. But
Jake, I want to ask you a question. Obviously, we're well aware of what Deshaun Watson was in Houston. What do you think is the deciding factor on why he's playing so poor? Is it the off-the-field stuff? Is it the money that he got in the bank? Can he just not get back to his old Deshaun Watson form coming out of Clemson that was so good?
I mean, it's been a long time since he's been dominant.
It has been. We're talking about he was a top 5 guy. He was going to Kansas City and giving Mahomes a run for his money when he was in Houston. I think a lot of it's Bill O'Brien and the offensive differences. He does not fit what they do in Cleveland very well, and they have not built the offense around him to do what he does well. I don't know how good he reads defenses pre-snap. And I think he's struggling with that. And you saw him struggle with it last week. If they were supposed to change the protection or change the play, you didn't see it a lot. And they got caught with a better game plan from Mike Zimmer. They have the weapons. Jerry Jeudy, kind of disappointing NFL career so far, but can play. Amari Cooper was nowhere to be found last week. No run game at all. And I like that coaching staff. I just don't think that they mesh well together. Again, Ben and I were talking about like the difference when you have a meddling owner. It wasn't the head coach that said, go pay Deshaun Watson all this money and give up 3 first-round picks and go get him. That's my guy. They panicked and did it to think that they are Cleveland and they need a franchise quarterback. I mean, you guys have seen the jerseys with the names of like 40 guys that have started for them since they came back in the league in 99 or whatever it is. They panic, and it doesn't fit what the coach that they're paying wants to do.
And they gave up on Baker Mayfield.
So this is a discussion that we could talk about forever, but we're going to transition right there with that Baker Mayfield comment, because while Deshaun Watson is looking like, dare I say, dog shit, the Bucs are looking pretty darn good. This week we have the Bucs traveling up north to face the Lions, and they are massive underdogs here. What are we thinking?
I think, this is going to be a really tough game. This is the playoff rematch. They lost to the Lions in the playoffs. I think it comes down to, I think it could be a shootout. Baker Mayfield in this offense, Jalen McMillan, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White, Bucky Irving, they have firepower. The Lions have firepower. If the Bucs want to win this game, they're going to have to stop Montgomery and Gibbs. And, they're injured at corner, but it was good to see McCollum at practice today. So that's a huge positive. I'm taking Buccaneers plus 7.5 here. And I was flirting with taking them as my dog of the week.
I love the plus 7.5. I think this is a very close game like you saw in the playoffs. You saw two teams going at it. One team was a little bit better. The Lions, I love what they added in the offseason at corner. Their defense didn't play great against the Rams the other night, but Matt Stafford was playing out of his freaking mind. I mean, that throw he made in the fourth quarter to get them back, I still don't know how he made it. It's one of the best things I've ever seen. I think the biggest difference of why I can't pick the Bucs to win the game, but I'm picking them to cover is Antoine Winfield Jr. being out. The most dynamic player on this defense that does so much for Todd Bowles, plays in the box, plays deep, blitzes, does all those things. I think if it is a higher scoring game, and I agree with JC, there's going to be some points scored here. I think that's the limiting factor for the Bucs, is that secondary being a little bit banged up and Antoine Winfield Jr. being out. I love what the Bucs got going on, though, man. It's typical. Nobody gives them any credit. They come out and just dust Washington last week. Yeah, it was a rookie quarterback, but they went out and imposed their will, did what they wanted to do, and looked really good on both sides of the ball. I think the Lions are right under San Francisco with Philly and maybe Dallas now as kind of the kings of the NFC. And I think the Bucs are right there at that 4, 5, 6 mark, right behind them. If you're telling me the Ravens and the Raiders are 9.5, right down to 8.5, but the Bucs went from 6.5 to 7.5 this week, I don't know. I didn't see that much. I think the Bucs are as good or better than the Rams. I don't know what you saw on TV last week to tell you that they're going to win by 8. I don't see that at all.
Jake, I agree with your, obviously, Antoine Winfield statement. He's best defender on the defense and the best safety in the NFL. I will say, though, there's a reason why they drafted Tyke Smith in the 3rd round. He now can step back, play safety, stay at nickel. Izzy can play nickel, or Izzy can play safety. They got to decide which guy's going to do what. But they have solid replacements for Winfield. But
I love the depth. I love that they added him. It's just not one guy can't do all of the things that Antoine does.
No, 100%. 100%. But
I love the fact that they can replace one of the things that he does. You just can't. But Todd wants to. Todd's got a fully healthy defense. You guys know how multiple and crazy that can be. The biggest piece of that is Antoine Winfield. So when you're talking about surprising a guy like Jared Goff, who's been there, done everything in this league, it's going to be hard to do when you're replacing the guy that's the biggest disguise part of that defense. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. This is much watch TV.
For me, the bigger loss over Winfield for the Bucs would be losing Godecki at right tackle.
Yeah, that one hurts.
As good as he played last year. Questionable.
They have depth with safety and nickel. That right tackle depth is not good.
No, and any offensive line depth in the NFL is not any good, especially with a guy that played that good last year when he moved out there to tackle. He'll play, I think. The new injury designations are crazy. Questionable is probable. You don't really know what's going on until you watch them practice, and then they're trying to hide all that stuff anyway. Offensive linemen are tough as shit. They just are. They play through stuff other guys can't play through. But can he play at that level with the pass rush that he's going to see? It's going to be interesting. I think that the little bit of the nicked ups part of the Bucs could limit them winning this game. I think it's one of the games of the week.
Yeah, I'm liking the Bucs plus 7.5 here. I am. Feeling the energy there, it's fantastic. But I do think Baker Mayfield's going to need to have another outstanding game. Hopefully, the offensive line can kind of stay consistent, and we'll see Luke play this week. I think getting Zion McCollum back would be huge. Otherwise, we were going to rely on a lot of unknowns there. And Izzy, I think, is going to be your starting safety this week. So that's a very interesting matchup. What are we thinking over? Under 51.5 points. I'm kind of liking over.
Yeah, I think that's more of like a
could be a shootout.
31-27 kind of game.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the Ravens versus Raiders, both 0-1 teams. And Baltimore is 8.5 point favorites here. Jake, start us off.
They were 9.5. When I like 9.5 better than like 8.5. But if anybody watched the Raiders play last week, they kicked the shit out of the Chargers and kept kicking the shit out of themselves. Like, they dominated the first half. Gardner Minshew was playing great. Their defense looks like it could be top 5. I heard somebody, I was listening to the broadcast, and the guy says that. I'm like, and then I started watching. Their defense is legit. I think the Ravens have an offensive identity crisis right now, with Lamar not wanting to go under center, but Derrick Henry wanting him under center. Lamar wanting to be in shotgun and Derrick Henry being in the pistol, trying to figure out how this is going to work. Likely looks like he is better than Andrews. I don't know if Andrews is the same guy coming off injury. It sort of looked like it last week, and that's where Lamar looked like he wanted to go. Are they going to play 2 tight ends? Because they didn't play a lot of 2 tight ends last week. Zay Flowers, and not Zay Flowers, but Flowers looks like an absolute stud for them. I don't know. I mean, the Ravens defense didn't look that good against Kansas City, but it's Kansas City. Like, again, how much do we learn from preseason? How much do we learn from week 1? My only question, I think the Raiders cover this, but I think they get beat. I don't know that the Raiders offense can go out there and score enough points to stay within the 8.5. But their defense, I think, limits them enough that I'm just going to pick it, and I'm going to throw out there. My wife's a Raiders fan, so I'm going to throw it out there once. If it bites me in the ass, I won't do it again.
JC, how you feeling?
I'm going to take Baltimore at home minus 8.5. I think Lamar just runs all over the Raiders. Obviously, Max Crosby is going to give him some issues, but I think this is kind of like a game where you just lost to Kansas City week 1. You kind of just take it out on them week 2 to get back in the groove of winning. I
think that's what a lot of people think. Spillane has been phenomenal since coming over from Pittsburgh in the middle of that defense for the Raiders. I just like that they're playing with – I was big on Antonio Pierce getting the job, whether he really was qualified or not, because he brings a funk to that defense. They're still playing like it from last year. Like I said, they shot themselves in the foot, or they really kicked the Chargers' ass. The Chargers couldn't do anything in the first half. I think they were like 0 for their first 7 on third down. And like one of the times, Zamir White's got a 14-yard run, and Bosa catches him in behind, fumble as they're going in. Like it was ugly. The score didn't dictate that one. And I think you're assuming that the Ravens make that big bounce. Easily could happen. Don't get me wrong. But I think the Ravens have a little bit of an identity crisis on what they're wanting to do with this big free agent, Derrick Henry. And I don't think they're just going to be able to hand it off and run it down their throat. And I think if it takes a little while for that to get going is why I think the Raiders have a chance to cover that.
Interesting. All right, it's time to move on. We got the Bengals Chiefs. Rough start for the Bengals. Very promising start for the Chiefs. Let's see. Chiefs open as 5.5-point favorites. JC, we're going to go to you.
I think with Cincinnati right now and Jamar Chase and all the drama going on, I just don't think the team's in the right state of mind. I think Kansas City minus 5.5 is an easy pick for me. I think Mahomes, look at the new addition of Worthy, just how fast he is, what he brings to that offense, that Tyreek Hill type speed. I like Kansas City minus 5.5 easy.
I agree. I mean, the Worthy was like, oh my God, the Chiefs and another little fast guy. But this dude is a difference-making fast guy. It's not McCole Hardman who makes a difference here and there. This dude looks like, while he's little, he's a receiver. But he also can do a lot of the things Andy Reid wants to do. The Chiefs looked damn good to me last week. I've said I think they're going to be better than they were the last couple of years. A little bit worse on defense, a little bit more explosive offensively. And I think the Bengals have serious problems. They've slowly lost pieces from those teams that were beating the Chiefs a few years ago. Joe Burrow apparently always starts slow. Even now when he gets a full preseason, he's going to start slow and look like shit last week. And we're talking about the Patriots being the worst team in the league. And they kicked their ass. No turnovers, own the time of possession, outrushed them by like 60 yards. They dominated that game. They played a Patriot game without Bill Belichick. Gerard Mayo's first game was still very Patriot-like, and they dominated it. I think the Chiefs have exponential number of more explosive players than the Patriots do. And while Joe Burrow's owned Mahomes in the past and was the only guy to go in there and really beat him up and beat them, I don't think he has any. T. Higgins doesn't play last week. That kind of came out of nowhere. Now he's questionable for this weekend. Jamar Chase didn't practice at all with the team, maybe one time in the whole preseason. Didn't do much last week. I think it's going to take him some time to get his legs under him. Tanner Hudson, former Buck, banged up on the injury report, fumbled going into the one, got hit when they were going in to score. I just think it could be ugly in Cincinnati. While I thought it could bounce back, and a lot of people picked them to, it ain't happened this week.
I mean, I'm hoping maybe down the line this would be a much better matchup like the ones we've seen in years prior. I still think it's insane that the Bills just handed first Mahomes and now Worthy to the Chiefs on a silver platter. I think that's insane. Yeah, I'm liking the Chiefs here as well. The Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs, and the Bengals are in trouble right now. So
this was almost a lock.
I was about to say, this is almost I'm talking myself into this being my new lock.
We're going to have to circle back to that, but first, it's time for the dog shit games of the week. I don't know if they're going to censor me or not. We tossed around the idea for that segment, but dog shit it is. So how this segment's going to go is we're just going to run through each matchup. Instead of talking you through the boring details of the Giants and the Commanders, we're just going to do our quick hits and move on before we get to the locks, the dogs, and the Bucs Same-Game Parlay that you will not want to miss. So let's start off with the 49ers versus the Vikings, both 1-0 teams. And let's see, we have the Niners as 5.5-point favorites. Jake, going to you.
Niners, simple. Vikings played well last week. It's a big win, but that's a whole step up in competition for them this week.
JC?
Yep, Niners minus 5.5 for me.
All right, up next we have the Seahawks versus Patriots. Seahawks 3.5-point favorites. JC, start us off.
I'm going to take New England in the points here, plus 3.5.
I'm taking the Seahawks. That was almost my lock of the week. I think New England gets a big bounce from last week. And the only thing that really questioned me from taking it as a lock is that flight across the country. But Seattle figured it out in the second half last week, made a great halftime adjustment in the coaching staff. I think they get it done.
All right. Giants Commanders, both 0-1 teams. NFC East, we have the Commanders as 2.5-point favorites. Jake?
I saw enough from Jaden Daniels running around to make me want to pick them because I didn't see shit from the Giants that made me want to even think about picking them.
Negative.
Both dog shit teams here. Little dog shit. I'm taking Commanders minus 2.5. Same reason as Jake. Jaden Daniels showed that even though no one's open, he can run all day.
Yeah, he's got wheels. All right, Chargers, Panthers. We got the Chargers 1-0, Panthers 0-1. Panthers need a whole lot of help. And what are we looking at here? -6 for the Chargers? JC, how you feeling?
Taking Chargers -6 here. I think people don't even understand how bad the Panthers are going to be. I think this could be a complete disaster to the point where they could go winless and Dave Canales gets fired after week 9, but we'll see.
I mean, and they lost their best player. Derek Brown is now out for the year. For the Panthers, like add insult to injury. And I loved what the Chargers did in the second half last week. J.K. Dobbins became a thing again. It was going to be a split backfield. I think he's going to kind of take over there. I think they win big. I think they go across the country. It's hard for West Coast teams, East Coast, 1 o'clock kick. I get all that. But I think they win big.
I mean, Carolina's selling tickets for like $1.
Two for $1.50. $1.80. Two tickets for like $1.80.
Sounds like a Rays game.
That's not good.
All right, moving on. Colts, Packers, both 0-1 teams. We have the Colts as 2.5-point favorites. Jake?
I'm going to take the Colts. The most important position in the NFL in any sport is the quarterback position, and Jordan Love's out for a few weeks. They're acting like he might play, and they didn't put him on IR. He's missing a few weeks here. Anthony Richardson, by the way, I'm going to get on a soapbox again. 9 of 19 does not equal good quarterback play because you made one freakish throw. They still have issues, but I think they're better. They're pretty equal all the way around, other than I think Jordan Love was the equalizer there. He's not playing, so give me the Colts to cover that.
Yeah, I got Colts covering -2.5. I think similar to Jaden Daniels, Richardson runs all over Green Bay, and they get the win.
All right. Jets, Titans, both 0-1 teams. We have the Jets as 4-point favorites. Kind of an ugly first outing for both teams. JC, start us off.
I'm going to take the Jets here -4 against Tennessee. Tennessee played pretty decent last week. I think Rodgers bounces back, gets the W. Garrett Wilson gets more involved. Breece Hall dominates. I think it's a Jets win.
I think the Jets handle this one pretty easy. That Titans defense is going to be good all year, but we saw the ultimate implosion offensively. And I wouldn't say the Jets was ugly. They played maybe the best team in the league. And they held their own there for a while. Had a fumble, had a bad penalty early, had a drop on the first third down. It could have went 3 and out. It could have turned out different. The score was ugly. But I saw enough from Aaron Rodgers to know that Aaron Rodgers can still play football. They're beating them by 4.
He can still play, but I don't know if they had the performance that they wanted right off the bat, gelling offensively.
No, it wasn't what they wanted. They got smacked in the mouth by a superior team. But again, no preseason. for any of those starters. I mean, they didn't play. I think you'll see them bounce back. The Jets are going to be fine. I'm still picking them to win that division. They're going to start 4-1.
All right, moving on. We have the Rams and Cardinals, both 0-1 teams, but kind of a shocking to some, maybe not others, outing by the Cardinals off the bat. Cardinals start as 1.5-point favorites. JC, start us off.
Yeah, I had the Cardinals last week being my MoneyLine Dawg pick of the week. It was plus 250 odds, which was, I think, the biggest odds there were for a dog. Almost happened. Jake disagrees with me. I think there should have been a pass interference call at the end of the game. Put him on the 2-yard line. Whatever, it happened. They lost. I'm taking the Rams, though. I think McVay owns the Cardinals. I think you see Cooper Kupp have 10-plus receptions in this game, and so I'll be taking the Rams to cover.
Matt Stafford was ridiculous last week. Cooper Kupp is officially back. Yes, Puka Nacua is out for this game. Jonathan Gannon's never won an NFC West game. And McVay owns the Cardinals, whether they play in L.A. or they play in Arizona. It's in my backyard. I don't care. Until the little brother steps up and wins it, give me the Rams.
Okay, we'll take it. So now we're looking at the Steelers-Broncos. Maybe Russ's return to Denver just didn't go as expected. We have Justin Fields leading the Steelers offense this week. 2.5-point favorites for Pittsburgh. Jake, start us off.
I don't know what you saw from Denver that makes you think that they're going to hang in there. I mean, Pittsburgh's the only team in the AFC North without a touchdown and the only one with a win. That is not a good stat. But I think 6 field goals could win this one again. I think they get their first touchdown and they get to like 20, 21, 22 points. I'm not sure a rookie quarterback against that defense and a healthy TJ Watt is going to be able to keep up with that. I think the Steelers cover that pretty easily. I like Bo Nix. I think he's going to be fine, but there's a big jump whether he had 61 starts or 6 starts to the NFL.
JC?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that NFL Red Zone even has to show footage of this game, but I'm going to take the Steelers minus 2.5.
Yikes. Moving on to Bears versus Texans. This is our Sunday night football matchup. We have Houston as pretty huge, 6.5-point favorites here. Jake, let's get it going.
Look, Caleb Williams is the first overall pick to win his start at quarterback since David Carr in 2002, but he didn't throw for 100 yards. It took a punt block for a touchdown and the worst interception for a touchdown I've ever seen from Will Levis for the Bears to win that game. The Texans, I think it was 40-20 time of possession against the Colts and outrushed them by like 80 yards. That game was not a 2-point game. There was a couple fluky plays by the Colts that kept that closer. Texans are legit. Bears are not. Caleb Williams, going to be great. Still got a little ways to go for me on that one. I think Texans cover that pretty easily.
Yeah, I think Caleb struggles here early in his rookie season. I think it was pretty big to see how good Joe Mixon looked on the Texans last week.
You think that's a big loss for the Bengals who couldn't run it at all?
I think Texans roll here minus 6.5.
All right, we got
By
Monday.
the way, Rome Odunze getting an MRI, might not play in this game on his knee. That receiving core didn't do anything last week either. Keenan Allen I thought would be a bigger thing. I think they got some stuff to figure out.
Forgot all about that. Now we're moving on to Monday Night Football. Atlanta, Philly. We have an 0-1 team in Atlanta, 1-0 team in the Eagles who looked phenomenal last week. Friday Night Football, 6.5-point favorites here. JC, what do you think?
Philadelphia all day here. I think Jalen Hurts runs and passes all over Atlanta, but I think Atlanta is going to get exposed under the bright lights to show they are not the kings of the NFC South. We know who the kings are. I think Philly just crushes Atlanta, and Kirk Cousins looks old. He's coming off Achilles tear, or is it ACL or whatever?
Achilles.
It's not a good situation for Atlanta right now. Philly, big.
Look, man, you gave him $140 million guaranteed, and I said we're not going to see Penix, but my God, did he look bad.
Woo.
He did look old. He looked slow. He looked like the Achilles isn't healthy. Bijan Robinson wasn't a thing. Drake London wasn't a thing. Kyle Pitts wasn't a thing. Their defense, which I said would be pretty good, wasn't really. I mean, they held the Steelers to 6 field goals, but the Steelers' offense sucks.
That's
such an Eagles roll. Was there a bigger acquisition than Saquon Barkley in your own freaking division, Giants?
Especially Atlanta's defensive line is not that great. Saquon could run for 130 here.
I mean, Grady Jarrett coming back looked good, but no. I mean, they have pieces on that defense. Why the Penix pick didn't make any damn sense. You needed to add another piece to that defense, and you didn't do it. I think it's going to bite them in the ass. The Falcons start 0-2. They got a lot of stuff to figure out, and I think they get hit in the mouth with a tough, talented physical team, and they don't know how to handle it. I think Philly rolls.
Falcons also very tough schedule.
Yeah.
All right.
Very tough.
We got to move on. It is time to move on to our lock of the week. Jake, get us started.
Give me the Bolts in Carolina. I wasn't real impressed with them in the first half last week, but J.K. Dobbins becoming a thing. They're going to run it better. Ladd McConkey looked really good for a rookie. He looks seasoned. And I could be playing receiver for him next to Ladd McConkey, and I think they go cover this. Yeah, it's a long way to go across. But the Panthers, man, maybe we're missing something. Did they look that bad in week 1 and week 2? Bryce Young only played a little bit in the last preseason game. But, man, you throw a pick on the first play of the game that's not even close. Like, not even close. I think the whole premise of the Chargers under Harbaugh is play more consistently, don't turn it over. That defense looked good. You still got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. Derwin James is still a thing. Asante Samuel Jr., like they got pieces on the defense. I don't know that the Panthers score 9. I think they kick their ass.
JC, your lock of the week?
Lock of the week's 49ers minus 5.5. I think they're a powerhouse. They don't even need McCaffrey. They're that good. I think the Vikings come back to reality with this game and get their asses whooped. So that's my lock, Niners minus 5.5.
All right, those were our locks of the week. Moving on to our dogs, our underdogs of the week. Jake, start us off.
I took the Bills. I think the Bills on the road tonight, Thursday Night Football. I just think until the little brother steps up and beats them, even won 9 out of 10 against this team. Josh Allen's numbers are unbelievable against this team. Give me the Bills, although I'm about to agree with JC when he says his. So I almost had 2 dogs of the week.
My dog of the week is the Rams. They, in my mind, shouldn't even be an underdog. I think it's an easy dog pick. I think, like we said, McVay owns the Cardinals. Cooper Kupp, big game. Stafford, big game. Easy.
I think this is a little bit of a Vegas overreaction to the Cardinals last week until the Bills figured it out. And, yeah, it might have been pass interference, but what you don't do at the end of the game with a Hail Mary is throw it to the 5'8" guy when you have 2 6'4" receivers. So I don't think you should deserve pass interference if you throw it to the 5'8" guy in that case. The 5'4" guy throws it to the 5'8" guy. That's not good. It's not DeAndre Hopkins down there with the Hail Mary. I think the Rams and McVay own them, and I was just so impressed with Stafford last week, man. When he's healthy, Stafford was Mahomes long before Mahomes. The arm angles, the no-look passes, the move around and throw it down the field. They're not scramblers, but they move around enough to do it. I just think he looked great.
Wow. All right. So those were our locks and dogs of the week. We are moving on to our same game Bucs parlay for our Bucs fans out there. Bucs take on the Lions this week in Detroit. JC, give us your same game.
Give it to me. I can't wait, man. This one was easy money for your boy last week.
I have it here. I want to see the odds I got though. So it's a plus 2,500 game or 7-bet prop parlay. We got Mike Evans anytime touchdown, David Montgomery anytime touchdown, Baker Mayfield over 250.5 because I think this could be a very high scoring game. I got Godwin over 59.5 receiving. I think that's easy. Take that as a single bet. I got McMillan over 29.5 receiving. I got Rashad over 24.5 yards receiving. Take that as a single bet as well. And then Baker over 9.5 rushing yards is almost automatic in my mind. Take that as well. But that is, I put $25 to win $650, but that's plus 2,500 odds.
Not
and if
bad.
you wanted to be a little bit more conservative on there and you take Baker's passing numbers off,
yeah, that is
then the rest of that looks that's still a 6-way. I mean, that's ridiculous, man. I like all of those. The Baker passing numbers, I think they'd like to try to run it, and the game might be shorter if the Lions can run it. But I'm not touching it. I think it's awesome. By the way, your other one on Thursday night last week almost hit in the first half.
Yeah.
Like it hit easily, but it almost hit in the first half, and the Bucs hit big time. So like my boy's on a roll with these. Pay attention.
Don't question the dogs.
Let me just bring it up real quick. So, just for the listeners, last week's Bucs game.
While JC's looking at that, in a minute, he's going to run through how you can get involved on the other end as well. Give us your bets. Go ahead, JC.
6-game Bucs prop parlay last week. I got, let's see here, Mike Evans anytime touchdown, yes. Buccaneers minus 3.5, yes. Baker over 1.5 passing touchdowns, yes. McMillan anytime touchdown, yes. McMillan over 24.5, yes. Rashad White over 84.5 rushing and receiving, yes. So that was a good one.
Cha-ching.
And JC, how can viewers get involved in MoneyLine Dawgs?
So if you go to our social accounts, you can join our Discord. We've done this in the past with other shows, including Fully Loaded. And you will pick against Jake and I. If you beat us, we're going to decide at a certain point in the season to restart the competition as well. You can win a PS5 or Xbox. Got to give your picks in the Discord.
Love it. Love to see it. This has been the 813 TV's MoneyLine Dawgs. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube, check out www.the813.tv for daily Bucs content. Thanks for tuning in.